right, sorry. Just waiting for people to get on. Let's see how many do we have. What's it? Just a few. Scotland's represented. I see, David. You're here. Good to see you. Was there a question yet? No, but yeah, the chips and salsa. It is chips and salsa. Guacamole is going to cost you an extra $7 though. So, yeah, if you hit the like button, that would be awesome. Oh, I got to turn on the light. Sorry, dark in here. Ah, much better. Much better. That's why I was playing so jazzy, because it was so dark in here. Hey, Gary, what's going on? Pepper, good to see you. And Sam, always good to see you. And Bruce, good to see you. Let's see who else was on here. David. I know there are a lot of lurkers that aren't chiming in, and that's totally fine. So hi to you lurkers. Claudio, are you still there, Claudio? We're going to continue to talk about pentatonics, not the group. And we've been talking about just playing over pentatonics and how you can use them in different ways. Boy, I kind of need an overview of the things I've talked about, but right now we're talking about the distinctive minor pentatonic shapes that also are major pentatonic, so the same thing. Right now, the way I have the fretboard arranged here, this pentatonic shape, which I call pentatonic number 4, because this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, and this is number 4. Just based on the order and the distance away from number 1. So this one is of the other 4 pentatonics besides 1. This is probably the one that's most shaped like number 1. It kind of feels like number 1 in some ways. You know, there's a good passage right here, which is the same as. So the kind of the middle of this number 4 pentatonic feels like the bottom of the number 1 pentatonic. And musically, it's identical. It's the same exact notes. You know, something I haven't been talking about as much. I probably have, but I've been conscious about it. One of the things I want you to do too is to be aware of how to find these. Like, how do I find number 4? And number 4 is kind of, if you know your bar chords, everybody learns two main bar chords, and that's the E form. Okay, and if you want to play the minor pentatonic over the major chord, or if you make this a minor chord, like A minor, then you play number 1 right there, wherever that chord is. So if I go up here and play a G chord, like G7, G, and play a minor pentatonic right there. Let me change tones. Let's go here. It's going to take a second. It's got a Lotus plugin. Kind of bright, right? We just put a little EQ and pull off some of that top end. You would get if you play the number 1 pentatonic right here over this chord, you would get the kind of the classic blues sound. Okay, if you played pentatonic number 2 over it, starting on the G note with your second finger, you would get the major pentatonic. Okay, so that way you get the real inside. And you could do that. That would be like, you could also use that in a blues. It almost sounds a little bit more like country or swing, or a little happier, maybe a little bluegrassy. But you can also go back and forth between. George Benson would do that all the time. It's one of the things I loved about George Benson's playing. He might go back and forth between a major and a minor pentatonic, or go back between the blues and the major blues or something, minor blues and major blues or whatever, and could, you know, over this chord might go. So he would even, if it was a G major 7 chord, like I can see doing minor pentatonic scale over a G7 chord, but Benson would even do it over, like on Breezin', it's D major 7 to B minor, but it's a very, very strong D major with a C sharp, right? There's a C sharp in that melody. But yeah, it just kind of goes, it's funny, you can just see your face go from normal to stink face when you go from that happy major. It's like that. So, and that's what you can kind of do here. So just play the G chord, envision the minor number 1 pentatonic, and then the minor number 2 pentatonic, or the number 2 pentatonic. Starting on G would give you your major sound. So the other bar chord that we tend to learn, like the E form and the A form. And when I was a kid, we called it a double bar, because I think some people would play it like this, you know, double bar or something. I don't know. I could never bend my third finger backwards so that I could get just these 3 strings and then let that one be open. So I'll play it without any excitement or exuberance. I'll play it this way. But if you think that's A, and then B flat, B, C, don't worry, there won't be a quiz on this. Everybody take a celebratory sip. I'm not going to quiz you on your bar chord positions. But if we keep going, we get A again, right here, and that's where we are today with the pentatonic number 4. So if I play this pentatonic, if you can find this chord, so if you want to play D minor pentatonic, just find this D chord and play pentatonic number 4. We'll get it down in a little bit here. What's my opinion about why guitar players use pentatonic exclusively? Yeah, we're actually not doing that. The funny thing, because we're starting with a pentatonic, and pentatonic's 5 notes, and if we turn it into blues, that's a 6-note chord scale, and then if we add 2 more notes, we can get a diatonic, a 7-note scale. Or we got to take away that blues note though. So really, what we're doing is we're using the pentatonic as it's kind of like, almost like see, now this is going to sound like I'm slamming the pentatonic scale, but kind of like a baby talk to get us into a little bit more difficult stuff. It's like addition and subtraction, and we're getting to we're using the pentatonic as addition and subtraction to bring in the multiplication and the division. So, and there is division among pentatonics. But pentatonics, Pat Metheny, I've said before, and you probably you didn't hear that, but I sat like 3 rows back, right in front of Pat Metheny one time, and I was amazed at how many pentatonic scales he used. And the thing is, you can really use pentatonics in a very interesting way. They don't always have to be super like just minor blues like that, but you can also create like Lydian sounds. Like if I played B minor pentatonic, and all of the permutations, all of the versions of it here, all up and down the fretboard. If I played that over a C major 7 chord, I don't know if I have a C major 7 chord, but I can make one here. Sorry. That's not what I want to do. All right, so I'll go to my Pat Metheny sound, but that's a C major 7 chord. But if I play B minor, I'm playing the major 7th, I'm playing the 9th, I'm playing the sharp 11, I'm playing the 6th, I'm playing the 9th again, I'm playing the 3rd. And so you can use pentatonics to be very, very sophisticated. They don't have to be caveman. It's not caveman music, you know, caveman guitar player. But we're just using right now. I've got a very simple A minor jam that I'm playing over using the pentatonics. So if you know your bar chords, and you know the A form bar chord, and you know you're way up and down the neck, that means that you can find pentatonic number, what I call the pentatonic number 4, which is the one I've got wrapped in the box right here, okay? And this one in particular has to be at the 12th fret. So sorry, Pepper, are you playing a nylon guitar, a classical guitar? Anybody who's playing like a 12th fret guitar right now, 12th fret guitar acoustic or something, is gonna have trouble playing up here, and I apologize. You could do this as an open scale. In fact, let's start with that. Hit the open E string, and then 3rd fret, open E, 3rd fret, I'm sorry, open A, 3rd fret, open D, 2nd fret, open G, 2nd fret, 1st fret C, 3rd fret D, open E, and G. And that would be a way you could... I don't do it very often. Might use it to write a riff or something, but soloing in that, for some reason I have no problem soloing in pentatonic number 1 in open position. I don't really have a problem doing it in open position for E, but A just doesn't jive the same way for some reason. Maybe I should just spend a week doing nothing but that, and you could totally do that. It would work over this progression. See, right there, I added a diatonic note. I did that B natural. So, yeah, so pentatonics do sometimes get a bad rap, but ultimately we can use the pentatonics to learn a myriad of diatonics. Like inside of this A minor pentatonic right here, the number 1, I can add 2 notes and make it A minor. Okay, I could add 2, one the same and one the different note, and make it A Dorian. I could add 2 different notes and make it A Phrygian. But the skeleton of all 3 of those scales in this position is that minor pentatonic scale. So it's a good building block. You know, learning your pentatonics is a great way to kind of, thank you, Pepper. It's a great way for you to have a dexterity that you can now add a couple notes to and go, oh, that's an interesting note. Like for example here. And it could get boring. You know, I could probably play it and not let it get boring, but a lot of it is space. People tend to play too much when they're soloing. You can be minimalistic. the space could be as much of the solo as the notes. But then you might stumble on a diatonic note that works really well. So you got to make a face when you play this note. Yeah, I meant to hit that note. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we're not really necessarily purely talking pentatonic. So the title of this video is maybe a little bit misleading. I was trying to come up with movie titles. What did I say? Yes, Pentatonic Madness. Yeah, it's not even very funny. So if you if you have any suggestions, go to the hold on. Let me pin the Discord link I posted here. Hold on, I'm pinning the Discord link. Go to the Discord link up here. This is a join link. It's a free invite. And I just dragged the 3 of the pentatonic scales here. This thing here. I dragged 3 of them into the Discord under Tom's PDFs and lesson plans or whatever lessons. So you have this one, the one we did last week, which was, I think, this one. I think this one. Yeah, that one. Pentatonic number 3. And I don't know what this is. This is just the unmarked one, I think. Yeah. So I'm hiding those back there in case I need to reference them, okay? But yeah, so if we can find that A form bar chord, which so many of us do, you don't even need to think major. You can just think power. You know, right? If you get this A, I'm a little attitude, but if you get that A, now you've got the location of this pentatonic number, what I call pentatonic number 4. Let me write that in here, actually. Let me just put text, whatever. All right, nice and big. Look at that. Boom. Don't need it that big. Yeah. Maybe put that right there, like that. That's kind of cool. Look how high tech I am. Okay, so Holly, what's going on, Holly? Just lurking a bit. You're our dad's visit. Oh my, 83rd birthday. How cool is that? Well, happy birthday, Dad. What's his name? What's your dad's name? There we go. Happy birthday, Holly's dad. So that's what his name is today. If you tell me his name, I'll change that. And then you can go, hey, look, they're wishing you a happy birthday. All right. So, so that makes it, I think, fairly easy to find this one. You know, that's a big part of the challenge, right? When you're trying to solo, or you're trying to incorporate a little bit of knowledge into your playing. It's like, okay, I understand how pentatonic number 1 is connected to 2 and 3 and 4, but how do I use those, or how do I find them? Oh, Gordy, you're kidding. Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I work with a guy named Gordy Hobb. He's one of the best composers in the world. Love Gordy. In fact, I got to email him. There we go. Happy birthday, Gordy. So, so now you don't need to lurk. You can turn the volume full up, and he won't mind. So, yeah. So finding it. This one's a fairly easy one to find, and you can think of it as again. You're seeing. You can think of it as a A minor pentatonic. or if you play A major, you can think of it as kind of a A minor slash blues. If you want to add the blues notes in there, which I'll show you those too. It's the same scale with one note added, and it makes the A major chord sound like a... Richard, what's going on? Straight up hair day. Yeah, look at that. That's called getting out of bed and not looking in the mirror. I actually went to Starbucks like this. I think they literally think I'm a mad professor, which I get accused of being every now and then, so. Oh, Urs, good to see you. What's up? Sorry, I missed that. Saw Richard and I didn't see you. Okay, so let's go over this now. Hopefully you have an electric guitar, or at least an acoustic guitar that you can fit your hand in. Maybe if you got a cutaway or something, maybe grab that instrument. But we're gonna play at the 12th fret, and then we're gonna play at the 15th, so 12, 15 on the bottom string, and then 12, and that's our root, okay? You see that little R right there? That stands for root note. So that means that's an A, because we're using A minor pentatonics. Now, that's if we're talking about minor. This same scale, if I think of this note here, this C, the very next note, if I think of that as the root, now we're playing a C major pentatonic. Same exact notes, A, C, D, E, G. Same notes except I'm starting on the C. C, D, E, G, A. Oh, so out of tune. That's another thing, that I'm trying to make sure we're understanding, and I'm afraid I haven't been very consistent with pointing that out. Like, because I'm just freewheeling here. I'm just stream of consciousness teaching. I don't really have notes in front of me like, oh, don't forget to mention this. I probably should. A good teacher would do that, but I'm not a good teacher. I'm a bad teacher. So bad. This minor pentatonic here, the very first one, you can visualize over that A minor chord. But also if you see the G form, which we don't play this chord very often, but you play G all the time, but you don't usually play the G form bar chord. I'll play it every now and then. But if I go up to C like this, so my third finger's on C, well, right there playing that G form, or even just visualize, you don't need to be able to play this, you just need to be able to see it. If you can see that it's on the fretboard, that's half of the notes in the pentatonic scale right there. You've got 6 notes, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's 12 here. And half of them are in this chord right here. So if you can, that's why I always talk about it's really important to kind of start to see the fretboard in the caged method, to start to see those shapes up and down the fretboard. In other words, C chord here, this is a C chord, this is a C chord, this is a C chord, this is a C chord. And that way, each one of those has pentatonic shapes built around it. Major pentatonics. Shoot, this one here, this is the weird one, right? The one we did last week, number 3. Or you could also see it play minor pentatonics over each of those. But anyway, we won't go there necessarily. So we're back up here at the A minor 12th fret. So 12, 15, 12, 15, and then we're going to go 12, 14, and 12, 14. Now, if we go to the 5th string and go 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, right? Those 4 notes are identical to the bottom 3 strings. I'm sorry, those 6 notes are identical to the bottom 3 strings of the A minor pentatonic. He needs to get a guitar. He needs to watch my Guitar for Older Beginners, and then watch him go buy a guitar. Hey, Neon, what's going on? So that little bit. Hey, Jenna, wow, we got a lot of people. So that little bit there is the same as playing this. So harmonically, so let's say you want to play something like in that phrase, but you want it up an octave, you do it up here. that 5/8? I don't think, am I playing in 5/8? I wasn't meaning to. So again, let's go 12, 15, 12, 15, 12th fret, 14th fret. And what we're doing is we're doing this pentatonic right here, pentatonic, what I call number 4. Now we're at the second string. That's the only one where we have to jump up for a note. Take your second finger and put it on the 13th fret, and then go 15th fret with your pinky, and then first finger again on 12, pinky. All right, let's start again at the bottom, and then we'll go backwards. 12, 15, 12, 15, and I'm using my pinky, but it's kind of tight. If you got really big fingers, you could use your third finger instead of your pinky. You know, if you want to, I like to keep my pinky involved, even if I'm playing up high, because because a lot of times I have motor memory that involves the pinky, and if I try to do a lick without the pinky that I've always done down here with the pinky, I might mess it up or something. So I try to keep it might be, you know, up there it's a little tight, but I've got all those diatonic scales that I've got memorized and, like I said, programmed into my hand. I don't think I could play them safely without mistakes if I didn't use my pinky, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's go backwards on this number 4 pentatonic. So now I've got my pinky on the 15th fret of the top string, and then 12th fret, 15, and then second string, 13th fret. So pinky, first, pinky, second, or I should do the fret numbers, huh? 15, 12, 15, 13, 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 15, 12. I'm trying to conceptualize a video, because I did a video, and some people, you know, kind of got mad at it, but that's fine. I mean, I'm trying to help people, so you can get mad at me for helping people. But I did a video on guitar players with small hands, where I talked about, you know, if you have small hands, here, because people say, hey, what if my hands are really small? And I try to encourage them by saying, here, you know, Andy Summers has small hands, and Angus Young has small hands. There's a lot of guitar players that have small hands that are famous guitar players. And now my brother-in-law wants to start playing guitar, and he's got pretty sausagey fingers. Like, he's a big guy, and I'm like, yeah, I should do a video like guitar for fat hands or something. Playing guitar with fat hands, I don't know, or big hands. And it's funny because at first I was just saying, well, you know, what you need to do is you need to learn like the basic open chords, right? E, like E minor, C, G, D. But you know what? Like E minor is probably doable. D might be. But C is always so frustrating with people with big fingers, because they tend to deaden that G string and they tend to deaden that E string. And G can be a little bit frustrating, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to frustrate them. I want them to have fun. Like my goal for when I would teach students back in the day wasn't to get them doing music theory or learning how to read music or anything. You know, a lot of kids, I would just teach like how to play "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and it was like, oh my gosh, I can play a song right away. They can play a song, and it's like so much fun and exciting. And once they're engaged, then I sneak in theory. I go, by the way, you're playing an F and a B flat. You know, I teach them I teach them without them knowing they're being taught. So, and that's kind of what I did. But I thought with my brother-in-law, because of his big fingers, you know what would be more fun than that? Would be playing like blues. You can do that with big fingers, and then soloing is one of those things. Pentatonic scales is one of those things where you're really only responsible, it's like you're a bass player. You're only responsible for one note at a time. But when you're playing chords, it requires a lot more dexterity. When you do the Alfred's basic guitar method, like I did when I was 9 years old, you know, they teach you you start out on notes. You don't start out playing chords because chords are difficult, and yet most teachers, when they get a new student, they start teaching them chords. Now, it's one thing for a 15-year-old kid to learn team spirit because they pretty much can do anything immediately after you show them. It's so frustrating. It's like those sponge brains and those dexterous hands. It's crazy. So, yeah, cowboy chords, exactly. Yeah, they're kind of, they can be harder than they sound. I mean, when you say cowboy chords, it's like caveman chords. It makes it sound like, oh, any idiot can do them. And it's like, no, it's if you got really fat fingers, even if you get an extra wide neck, so that's why I think what will do with him is just like, dude, let's just do the blues. Let's have some fun. Let's make some music. And then as you start to develop dexterity with individual notes, then we can add in some chords and bar chords, I think. They're big hands. Like he could do reaches, I'm sure. It's just they're fat too. He's got sausage fingers. So, and he's not young. Okay, so back to this pentatonic scale. I keep getting sidetracked, but I'm trying to accommodate people here. Oh, did you get another commercial, Peppy? Peppy Jacker? Why do blues players substitute their pinky for the ring finger? Sometimes, if you're doing something that like blues players tend to kind of live in, if you're talking about this, like instead of playing this scale, like B.B. King would do that, that makes the blues not so sad. If you play that F sharp instead of the G and A. You're from now on, you're Peppy Jacker, Pepper. But if you're talking about if you're doing the same scale all the time, if it's easier for you. But I think most blues players do that because I think there's a little bit more bone tone out of the third finger because it's stronger and thicker and fatter than the pinky. The pinky can sound a little different. You can really dig in you can get your vibrato going. It's a little harder to do vibrato with a pinky. So that's probably why. I keep my pinky involved mainly because I want to be able to go anywhere in any scale in any form at any moment. And so having my pinky available and out there means that if I want to go, I can do that, even though that was sloppy. You get the idea. If I want to reach out with my pinky. Even though it's a little bit crowded in there with the pinky, it's still nice to have the ability to play a melody note. If you hear it and you want to go there and you're like, oh, that's a nice melody. Or whatever. All right, see, that would work over this progression. So you get the idea. It's like the pinky opens doors, gives you options, keeps the whole fretboard on, keeps the whole fretboard kind of available to you. Yeah. And when I'm playing, you're talking about the thumb over the top. Yeah. If I'm playing a C chord, if I'm teaching a C chord, I want kids to keep their thumb behind the neck like this. But once you have it down, yeah, you can get lazy. I mean, to be honest, I'm a typical lazy guitar player. If I didn't hook my thumb on here, sometimes I think my arm would be just dangling down on my side, So this is just purely to keep my hand in the vicinity of the neck. So, but yeah, the left hand technique on classical is very strict. But like Jimi Hendrix would use his, you know, he would fret with his thumb. So let's see, let's go back to this scale here. 12th fret, 15, 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 13, 15, 12, 15. Backwards, 15, 12, 15, 13, 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 15, 12. So that's that pentatonic. Now you can visualize the A minor chord here, right? Or you can visualize the A major chord, and if you play that over an A major chord, it's going to have a bluesy sound. You're going to want to bend that C note up to C sharp sometimes, or at least halfway there. That's one of my favorite licks to play in this position, in this scale, is like that. And so what I'm doing there is I'm playing over an A7 chord. All right, so maybe I'm thinking A blues. And what I'm doing is I'm putting my second finger on the C note. So here we are in playing a note that's in the A minor pentatonic, but we're going to bend it up to the, so we're playing the 13th fret. We're going to kind of bend it to the to the 14th fret pitch. So if you want to hit that pitch and then hit this one and try to bend it up, I'm not trying to flip you off. You gotta be careful when you play this lick. But you don't have to get all the way there. Getting halfway there is very bluesy. And then I play the 12th fret with on the first string, and then instead of going to the 15th fret, I go to the 14th fret, which is again that B.B. King thing. So if you do that twice, and then maybe go down here, my third finger is not available because it's on here, so I reach down with my second finger and grab that 14th fret on the third string, and that's the A note. So we're resolving on the root of the chord. Or you can go up an octave, up to the 17th fret of the first string is another A. And that's what, you know, people say, oh, what's the most important thing I should do? Well, we're talking about acoustic or electric. And they say, oh, electric. I'll say, learn your fretboard. Learn every note on your fretboard. It's so valuable. And it helps you, decode things. Like if somebody if somebody goes, hey, play this chord, he's like, what chord is that? You're like, okay, it's got an E, it's got a C, it's got a D, it's got a G, and it's got a B in it. It's like, then you can write all that down and you kind of put it in different order until you find, oh, that's kind of a C major ninth over E. You can start to learn the theory by analyzing stuff you're already playing. No quiz on that, so take a celebratory sip. And then the other thing is that you can find, you don't have to do it immediately all at once, but at least learn the bottom string and the second from the bottom string so you can find all your power chords. So you're playing D, F, C, and that also helps you communicate with other musicians. The bass player says, well, what are you playing there? And you can say, oh, I'm playing D, F, and C. And they, oh, okay, And bass players probably know how to, I'm not going to take another sip and save it. Bass players probably know how to know their fretboard, in spite of most people's opinion of bass players. But they only have to memorize 4 strings. Okay, but we only have to memorize 5, because if you learn the bottom string, that's the same as the top string. So now you're 33% done, and then you just learn the A string, and now you're half done. All right. So it is hard. The G string, I think, is like the hardest one to memorize. The D string kind of, you can go, oh. You kind of just see the octave below, or the octave, no, that's not so common. All right, so in this scale, let's do some licks. I'm going to play a lick using this scale, and then I want you to copy me. Okay, so I'm going to put the track on. I'm going to play a little riff, maybe a 1-note riff, it may be a 2-note, it may go to 3 or 4 or 5 notes, whatever. But I'm going to leave some space so you can play it as well. Okay, and the chords change here, but I kept the chords fairly consistent with each other. There's a lot of common tones, so these licks should work over every chord. And we have a friend. Kitty? I don't know what she wants. And that's Mama Kitty, or just Kitty. She doesn't have a name. She's never had a name. You don't have a name. She's a cat with no name. And there's a reason she doesn't have a name. And I'll tell you that later. Okay, here we go. Just playing that A note there. That root. Get a triple hit. You can practice hitting, do different ways. Short, long. You can do it on a downbeat or into the downbeat, where I'm landing, the third note lands on the downbeat. You can practice playing it. That's just rhythmic. You can see rhythm is as much part of the solo as the notes are. Play a solo with one note, and then you're eliminating some of the tools, but one of the tools you have is rhythm and different note values, length values, and that can create interesting melody or an interesting solo. Okay, here we go. So I just played that C to A. Or down here. Again, I'm just playing two notes. I'm playing the D, the C and the D. Hold on a second. Keep jamming. All right. So I'm good. Just play the 12th fret on the 3rd string and then the 14th. don't do those licks. All right. All right, so let's check this out. Check this out. So I'm playing, now I'm going to play the 12th fret and the 14th fret on the fourth string. So that's a D and an E. But if I play that note in between, that's the E flat or the D sharp. That's the blues. That's a blues note. I love doing this, like kind of going chromatically, just up a whole step. D, D sharp, E. Check it out. It's kind of like, I think of it when I hear that. I think ba 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 ba, like a horn section. Anytime you have a whole step, you know, being 2 frets between a note, there's a note in between. You can always use it as a what's called a passing tone. You're passing through. You may not want to sit on it, right? That G sharp doesn't work, but you don't hear it when you're just using it as a passing tone, right? I mean, yeah, I'm even playing it fairly slow. I'm sitting on it for a half a minute, you know. I'm not staying on it. It's a passing tone. People know, your listeners know that you're going somewhere. And it's okay if you hit that note. It's true of any note. You know, a lot of times you can use chromatics of you. Okay, so I got a question from my son-in-law. Hold on. So, yeah, easy answer, no. But he was asking me if I ever change out the pickups on my Squiers, and I do not. I've never changed out pickup. Oh, that's not true. I've got my Les Paul. When I got my Les Paul shortly after, I've got a what was it? The patent applied for, the PAF, a reissue kind of PAF pickup, and stupidly, in fact, I remember my guitar tech saying, "Are you sure?" But I put it in my bridge position. Well, the PAF is a weaker pickup than the what was my Les Paul was an '88 Les Paul. So my Les Paul's was it a deluxe, custom, standard? My Les Paul standard, the standard pickup at that time was probably a fairly hot pickup. Not like DiMarzio hot, but a fairly hot pickup. And I told him, I thought, because that's for the lead, you want the best sound for that. And it was like, no, actually, most guys, if they're going to put in one like good sounding pickup on a Les Paul, they'll put it in a neck position. And unless you're doing like a DiMarzio hot lead kind of thing, but the patent applied for pickup was a little bit more vibey, vintagey sound, and so I ultimately swapped it out, moved it to the neck position. That's the only guitar I've ever changed the pickup on, and that was probably one of the more expensive guitars I actually changed the pickup on. The Squiers I don't, because I like the sound of those pickups for specific jobs. So, if I was on a very, very strict budget and I was having a hard time getting good sounds for like rock lead stuff, yeah, I might throw a different pickup in the neck, in the bridge position or something on a Squier, but I don't have that problem. As a working guitar player, I can justify always buying another guitar if I want a guitar that does a certain job or something. I do have a couple guitars that I use live. This one I like a lot live, but it doesn't get a very good clean sound because these pickups are pretty hot. You can see they're hot rails. So these are technically humbuckers, but I do like them because they're quiet even with a lot of gain. And that's why I use it so much. Okay. So what I'm doing is, I've heard of Don and I guess I just don't. It's funny because I can tell you a story. We'll take a little break here. I mean, I'm a poor guitar player. For one thing, I never really, when I first started buying guitars, the thought of changing anything on them was like, why? What's wrong with it? It's like, sounds like a guitar to me. And, if I was playing through amps and live and doing gigs, like gigging in a club or something like that, then I'd probably be a little bit more sensitive to the sound of pickups and probably more the interface. I'm doing everything in the box most of the time, like except at church. I'm playing live, but even then my cabinet's in another room. They have it mic'd. It's a stereo cab. They have it mic'd. It's going to in-ears. I've got certain sounds that I use a lot, and if I changed anything, then those sounds would change, and I kind of like the sound. So I mean, it may be a little two-dimensional at times, but I remember I had a friend that was a pretty good guitar player, but he was not a full-time guitar player at the time. He is now, he's actually, I thought about interviewing him because he's gotten some pretty good gigs, and he was really like a computer guy. You know, he wanted to be a rock guitar star, you know, rock star, but that never happened. And he got really good at doing computer stuff back in the 80s, and he was making a lot of money. So he had like this giant rack. He had the Mesa Boogies, and he got Tom Anderson Strats. You know, these, like, I couldn't even, you know, he's showing up. I'm just playing my Strat that I've had forever, and it's like he shows up with a different guitar every week or whatever. Or he shows up, you know, he's like, he goes, hey, check out this, you know. I go, man, that's a cool looking guitar. And he goes, yeah, man, play it, you know. And like, I keep changing the pickups out on it though. He's like, I didn't like the original pickups. I put these other pickups in, and I didn't like those. And this is the third set that's been in there. Hey, Roger. And I pick up that guitar, and he goes, and this is like the third set of pickups he's in. He goes, and I'm not really happy with these. I'm thinking about maybe going to, I heard about these other pickups that are really cool. I may go to the, you know, have those put in. And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. Let me see. Let me check. And I start playing it, and I'm like, it sounded freaking insanely good. I'm like, are you kidding? This sounds amazing. I wouldn't change a thing. And he goes, well, it sounds good when you play it. And so the thing he was chasing wasn't a tone in the guitar or the pickup or everything. It was a confidence in the hands that he didn't have. He does now. It's so funny because I remember I did a lesson with him, and because I've played with him so much, I've heard him play lead and solos, and it was at church, and I remember telling him, you need to lay back, like exaggerate laying back when you're soloing. He was getting way too excited, too nervous, and he was playing way in front of the beat. And it's like, here's the beat, and he's like, here's the front of it. Where, from your perspective, I can't remember. And then the back of the beat, you know, he's like out here. You know, here's the downbeat, like here's your smack on the beat. You know, here's laying it back a little bit. Here's being a little ahead. He was over here, and so it almost it made me nervous to listen to him play. Because he sounded like he was nervous. He was trying to get somewhere. And then the other thing is, and this is a Lukather, actually it was Larry Carlton that told Lukather, don't think, play. And that's another thing. You know, we tend to go, hey, I learned a new scale. I want to make sure I use it. You know, and I remember like when I learned the diminished scale, I kept trying to work it into songs. And the diminished scale is a half step, whole step, half step, whole step scale. So it's on paper, it's a pretty simple. Yeah, it's pretty simple. But it doesn't have a lot of practical purposes. But over like an A7, A flat 9. What is it? How would it be? Oh, sorry. Yeah, it kind of works over that. But every time I got to a place where I could use it, I'd be like, oh, I got to get to that scale, and I'd mess up or something, or I would play some stupid melodic line, or it wouldn't make any sense. It sounded like a scale, or it sounded like an exercise, or it sounded like some kind of, you know, theoretical exploration, but not really anything musical. And the same thing's true like when guitar players get a new pedal. Oh, I got an Ottawa. An Ottawa. Oh, what's that? Oh, check it out. And then they use it on every song, and you're like, okay, would you stop using the Ottawa? And that was kind of like the feeling that this friend of mine was getting. He was like, kind of, he was getting, you know, like he was so excited to have a solo, but he was like nervous at the same time. And it's like, dude, just chill, simplify, lay back, don't worry about it. and it, you know, he applied it almost right away, and it made a huge difference. So, you got Oahu. Come on out. Oh man, I would love. Never been to Hawaii. You know why I've never been to Hawaii? Same reason I've never smoked pot, smoked weed. I'm afraid I'll like it. That's my problem. Oh, story time. All right. I can do. So the cat, where's the cat? So we lived in an apartment building for 32 years in Pasadena, and tried to buy a house. Finally got one, but very difficult in Los Angeles, especially for a musician. And I had the money. It was just hard to get a loan. Banks just don't like musicians, and they don't like 1099 income, which I think is the stupidest thing, because I had a stack of 1099s every year this high, and if 10% of my clients stopped using me, it would be that high. And yet with they want W-2. Well, if I have a W-2, it's one piece of paper, you know, and if I lose that job, there's no piece of paper. So I'm like, why do they favor someone with W-2? Anyway, it didn't make sense to me. So finally got a house. Anyway, when we were living in the apartment, we weren't allowed to have pets. And this stray cat started hanging around, and people were feeding it. But it was a feral cat, so she would not let anyone near her. But if people put food out by their door, and at night she would come along and eat it. Well, of course, she was showing up everywhere. And of course, being a wild cat, she got pregnant. We didn't know this, but we managed to kind of coax her into the house slowly but surely. Like, we put a bowl of food out in front of the door, and we'd watch her, and she'd come up, you know, cautiously to the bowl, eat a couple bites, and we make a move, and she'd run away. But, well, then we moved the bowl 6 inches closer to the door, and she got closer, and then we kept doing that. Finally, we moved it into the door, and if we just sat in the, you know, in the living room without moving, she would come in the house and then eat, but she'd be very nervous, and then she'd run out. So then one time we got her all the way into the house, and what I did was I went from around the other way, and I pulled the door closed from the outside, and the cat ran for the door, but the door was closed, and Jack was sitting right by the door, practically climbed him, and then climbed the curtains to the ceiling. On the curtains, she was just climbed right up. It's like, it was crazy. We were dying laughing, but at the same time, she was so scared. And we opened the door, and she ran out. Well, eventually, you know, she got more and more comfortable around us, but we weren't allowed to have pets. So the kids kept coming up with names, and I said, if we name her, she's a pet. If we don't name her, she's not a pet. So she actually ended up having her babies unbeknownst to us in Emma's closet, our daughter's closet. And so that was pretty, hey, Jan, what's going on? So that was, that's why she doesn't really have a name. They generally call her Mama Kitty. If we bring her into a vet or something, we put her down as Mama Kitty, and that kind of works. So she can have a name now, but at this point, it's like she's probably going to be gone in a year. I mean, she's fine. She's just overweight, and although she just caught something and killed it under the house, right under our bedroom. So last night I come to bed, and I was like, oh, there's a dead rat under the house. I can smell it. I'm like, dang it. So I open up the fans and everything, and it's fine. I just got to go under there and see where it is and see if I can either get rid of it or bury it or something. Rats are fine, because rats are teeming with parasites. So as soon as they die, they pretty much get, within 48 hours, they're almost stripped down to the carcass. If it's a squirrel or possums are the worst. They smell awful. Raccoons too. Whew, so bad. Or skunks. I've had a dead skunk under the house. Not our house, but under the building. That's the worst. I've had, you know, Alex will tell you a story about me making him go up to the roof to shovel off a dead possum. It was full of larvae and crap. It's like, yeah, I did that. I made him do it. But I couldn't climb up on the roof. I tried, and I couldn't get my body weight up to get onto the roof of the garage. I used to be able to climb up there, but I couldn't anymore. So I had him do it. But yeah, I've had to deal with a lot of dead animals. Okay, so we're talking about this pentatonic scale. Well, if we want to make it... Okay, well, another thing I want you to see is I want you to see that there's a C chord here. So play a C chord. All right? If you you play like this C chord here with the G in the bass and the... I see Bob Dylan playing this chord a lot, or sometimes. But if you play that, you're playing 6 of the 12 notes, so that's 50% of that pentatonic shape right there. If you can visualize it, you can't play that chord here, but if you can visualize it here, then you kind of got most of the notes there. So this can also be played over in the key of C. It doesn't have to be an A minor jam. Let's do some more licks. Copy me. Play what I play. Fifth string. Okay, now I'm going to do 12, 15, 12, 14. So now we got a 4-note pattern. And, you know, to be honest, I probably wouldn't play a lot there on this scale. I'd probably play more in the middle. Let's play these 4 notes. Even easier. 12, 14, 12, 14 on the 4th and 3rd string. No worries, Dr. Rock. Now you go backwards. Backwards is almost more common on this sound. And this is the A, so this is the root. You can go back to that. Play those 4 notes. We can go backwards and forwards. And it's that little idea, like I can take that and turn it into a solo, just those 4 notes, and you know, come up with something. So check it. So I might use, let me go to like a big gainy. I'm using that chromatic passing tone, right? So I'm taking 4 notes, maybe adding a couple little like embellishments here and there, those passing tones, but or that big bend I did, that big minor 3rd bend off the A note. I bent from A to C, which is a big bend. It's more than a whole step. It's a step and a half. And I love using those. Whenever I want to try to sound like Steve Lukather, I always do. You know, I might break a string. I love those minor 3rd bends. And if you look at the pentatonic scale, if we look at the notes in that scale, which I haven't done, let me maybe add them to the bottom of this. Let's see this, and I can do it like this. So the notes in the pentatonic are A, C, D, E, G, right? Well, you know what? Let me do that again, because I want to add another A, okay? Just so you can see it full circle. So if I play, I can stay with this down here. If I play the first, starting on the 12th fret of the 5th string, that's the scale. That shape. 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14. That's A, C, D, E, G, A. Okay, so A to C is a minor third. Don't worry, no quiz on this. Just hear me out. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to G is a minor third, and G to A is a whole step. Also called a major second. Okay, again, no quiz on any of this. This is music theory terminology, and there may be one of you that's going, "Wait, what? I understand that for the first time in my life." Okay, but so the A to C, if you're going to bend an A note, you better get to C when you're doing pentatonic scale. But with C, you can go to C to D, which I like the sound of that one. Like, here's what D. So I'll play all of these bends. I'll play all of these bends: A to C, C to D, D to E, E to G, and G to A. And they all kind of have their own thing. Watch this. Okay, I'm going to go with heavy lead again. Maybe a little bit less. Let me go with this one. See what this one sounds like. Whoops. What the hey? Oh, no. Okay. Okay. So what did I say? What am I going to do first? Oh, A to C. I can start with in the beginning. So I'm bending to this note from this note. Now on acoustic guitar, that's impossible. But the nice thing about this scale is it's right at the 12th fret. And that's the easiest place to bend on the guitar. And there's an A and a C in both the first two chords. The G chord doesn't have an A or C, but so that, okay, so now what about C to D? That's a cool bend too. I love the sound of it. Right? I went down to the A from that. C to D, back to C. It's almost like a suspended chord. It is a sus4 over the A minor. Okay. Now what about D to E? D to E is very, very common. That's a very common. When you hear that lick, that's going from the essentially what the 4 to the 5. But the 5 is a very strong note. An E note is very strong. In fact, an E note's in every one of these chords. Yeah, the piano is playing these chords right here. A minor to F major 7 to G6. Sorry, it's probably not, I don't know how the balance is. I'm working on getting it directly to you so you can hear it direct from the DAW, but I have to get a couple pieces of software to do it. But this scale, that lick, or that bend, is the very common D to E, going 4 to 5. So all the bends have a different vibe to them. And now E to G I really like. E to G sounds like this. It's such a great... Again, that minor third just is so emotional. So I could do it pulling down on the D string at the 14th fret. And I would always, anytime you're trying to work on your bends and you're like, okay, what note am I bending to? Check your math, right? So like if I want to bend that C to D, play the D, and then try to have a little bit of a billionth of a second memory of what that note sounds like. And very, 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 very important, know this, every position on the fretboard, every time you move a fret down or up, the tension is going to be different. So it's going to require either a little more or a little less of a push, a little more or a little less muscle. To be, so you have to use your ear. You have to be able to hear yourself. So you want to make sure that your amp's in a good position, or you can hear yourself versus everybody else in the band or in rehearsal or on your setup in the studio. It's there. Everybody's different as far as how loud should they play. It's this kind of thing where sometimes I find if I'm too loud, I'm too self-conscious. If I'm too quiet, I can't hear what I'm doing. It's not very inspiring. But there's the perfect for you might be yourself a little bit down in the mix so that you can kind of feel like you're part of this whole picture. Or some of you might feel better if you're a little bit louder than everybody else, where you can be, you can really hear yourself on top of the mix. One of the things that happens as a guitar player, we all know this, is that when we go from playing rhythm, like we go, rhythm can be really loud, and then we go to a lick, if we usually like go to single notes, the guitar's going to be quieter because we're not playing 6 strings, we're playing 1 string. So sometimes you need a lead boost or pedal or something a pedal maybe that's like a clean boost that you can just kick on when you're soloing, just so you're boosted up a little bit for the solos. The problem with it when it happens to me, and I like the sound so much better with that pedal on, then I leave it on, and now my rhythm's louder, and then I go to solo, I'm like, dang it. That happens to me all the time. Yeah, so you missed everything. All we've been talking about is you, Sam, this entire time. Okay, the last one is the G to A. And that's just going to the root. That's a really common. This was the one that Pentatonic number 3 really worked. It's weird because Pentatonic number 3 is the one we like the least, but yet that G to A root bend. In fact, we're literally at the 12th fret right there, so that's the easiest place on the fretboard to bend. Bruce helped me next Monday to take down the Happy Birthday Gordy. I could take it down now, I suppose. But he'll probably be up next week and I won't even notice it. So that's kind of, I don't think anybody asked me about bending, but that's kind of what I started talking about. Good evening. Ba-da-da-da-ba-da-ba. And if I pronounce your handle wrong in a goofy, stupid way, it's not because I'm being disrespectful. It's because I'm making fun of myself for not being able to pronounce something. So. Okay, now the B note is a really nice note to hit. It works over all 3 of these chords. And again, this is one of those things you want to do. You want to put on. You can go to this jam track. I can give. You got the email address of this jam track here? Hold on a second. Ba, ba, ba. I got it right here. Content. Get shareable link. That's what I want. Okay. So this is the jam session for this lesson that I've been using. Oh, we got up pretty high. We got up to 30 something. Kind of falling off, but that's okay. So that's this jam track that you're hearing. Now, one of the things you want to do, though, just even on this scale, you play one note and listen to what it sounds like over the 3 chords. It's going to have a different value. The E is the 5th. Now it's the 7th. Now it's the 6th. So the G, it's the root of this chord, and the 7th, and then the second. So you can sit on, if the chords are changing, you can sit on one note and just use your ear to kind of, you don't need to analyze it and go, oh, that's the 7th, and that's the 6th, and that's the 4th, and blah, blah, blah. You don't need to do that and be all nerdy like me. You might want to do that. You might want to go, why does this work? Or why doesn't this work? And sometimes that will tell you, the theory will tell you oftentimes why something's working or not working. Okay? Okay, so if I play the B note, that's the 12th fret. It's the 3rd of this chord. It's the 9th of this chord. It's the sharp 11 of the F chord. It sounds so good. Do that. Now you're playing more of a diatonic thing. Now check this out. If I take the both of the C's down to B's in this, I get this pentatonic. Pentatonic number 1. The same right here, but I'm at the 12th fret. Okay. If I play that over, now I might go to more of a jazzy sound, but if I play E minor pentatonic over an A minor progression, I'm going to get some interesting tones. And so it's a way you could take a pentatonic, your favorite number 1 pentatonic, and move it around and get a different sound. I could play it, technically also play that minor number 1 pentatonic at the 10th fret, kind of D minor pentatonic. It's going to have an F and no E, so it's going to be a little weird, but other than that, it's the same. See, I might do something like that, but I might go to the E note as well. So I might do something like. That's a lot of tension. Works over the F chord because it's an F note. Works over the G chord because it's dominant. Kind of weird, but. Yeah, so that would be, but the B note is a nice note to add. The F note you can add, which is what I did with moving the, so if I were to combine all the notes in D minor pentatonic and E minor pentatonic, I would end up with basically a C major scale. And that totally will work over this. So, but basically I was just playing all the notes in C. I'm saying just all I was doing. Sorry, I don't mean to like make it sound like, oh well, just a matter of fact. But so a pentatonic scale has five, ergo penta, right? Penta, five notes. And this A minor pentatonic has those five notes. You see six, but I wrote the first note, the root, twice because I want to talk about the bends. But if you add a B and an F to that, now you've got a minor scale or a C major scale, or you could think of it as D Dorian, any of the scales relative to C major. And there's a total of 7 scales you can think of if you want. If you want to think of a Phrygian scale, Lydian, Mixolydian, Dorian, whatever. No quiz on any of this. You don't need to know this, but yeah, Lydian, I mean, technically, you could think of this progression as like being, you could play F Lydian, which is the same as C major. But it's only on the F chord for a little bit. It still has, because the chord progression wants to end on an A minor, it's got a very strong A minor tendency. But yeah, I'm just playing C major, Gary, but it could sound like any of those, okay? It could sound like any of those. If you're hearing Lydian, if you're hearing that chord, you might go, oh, it's Lydian. But really, I'm thinking C or A minor. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this pentatonic scale and I'm adding an F and a C. F and a B. So play the top 3 string, or top 2 strings would be this. 12, there's your B. 13, there's a C that was already there. D, we already had the D. E, 12th fret. There's our new note F at the 13th fret, and then G. And if I want to continue down, I could get that A here and G. So then I could do 3 strings. And you could practice that over it. Any of those notes will work over this. Okay, now I just stumbled on that. I've never done that lick before in my life. Sam's about ready to type. What are you doing there? Right? Am I right, Sam? Okay, so what I did was, I think I'd started with that maybe. And then I said, okay, these are going to be my root. I'm going to do that every time, but then I'm going to work my way up the scale. That's kind of odd. I could do it. The D to the E is a weird one. But yeah, you just start to see a pattern. I started a pattern, and then I did a variation, and I did another variation, another variation, another variation. And there might be something in there you go, oh, this is kind of cool. I'll use that, but maybe not use anything else from that. I can do it with a pen. I like that. So I'm skipping the second string. I'm just playing this A minor pentatonic number 4, but I'm skipping the second string, just playing the third string and the first string. But it gives you an interesting interval instead of a third or a second. It gives you this fifth. I could do it with the 4th string and the 2nd string. It's a good exercise. It may not be very musical. It's up to you to make it musical, make it sound like something that people want to listen to. Yeah, Richard, yeah, that was the question. If the root is A, then you can use the 4th D minor or 5th minor pentatonic. Yes, that's exactly what I did. Now, it may be a little weird. I think the E minor pentatonic sounded better than the D minor pentatonic. That F was over this progression right here. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time pointing to it. Right there, over that progression. You know, the F kind of works over the F chord. You know, it's got such a strong A minor sound to it. I could write a completely different chord progression that would maybe emphasize more of the F chord, and that D minor pentatonic might find more of a home there. But it's totally legit. Like I play it, you know. I'm just going to go back and forth between D minor pentatonic number 1 and E minor pentatonic number 1. So this pentatonic, the one that A minor right here, we're going up to the 10th fret and up to the 12th fret. And I can just go back and forth. It's a little weird. You might have to fish around until you can find something you can use in there. But then you can always go back to the A minor pentatonic and know it's going to work fine. It's kind of cool. I mean, like I said, it's kind of cool to just use those two shapes to kind of go to and then come back to the home key, the A minor key. I think that, you know, something like that's kind of cool. Something like that, you know, it's got to make some sense musically, technically. If the key of C major works over that progression, that diatonic scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, then technically all the notes that are in the D minor pentatonic, the E minor pentatonic, and the A minor pentatonic would work. But if you just combine all the notes in the D minor pentatonic and the E minor pentatonic, you combine them all into one scale, you're going to get a C major scale. You're going to get the notes of a C major scale. You're also going to get the A minor scale. You're going to get E Phrygian. You're going to get D Dorian. So, again, don't worry about no quiz on any of this. It's just show you how connected everything is and how relative things are and how you can experiment and make mistakes and go, oh, wait. I mean, Alex, I was just playing. I love this. This is such a great guitar riff. I'm sure somebody knows this, but it's such a great, and I hope I don't get demonetized for playing it, but. It's such a great, and I guarantee to you that he created that. That's a Weezer song. Created that. It was an accident. It was like he was goofing around. He was almost maybe even trying to play something ugly and obtuse, and it went, oh, it's freaking genius. Ended up being one of their biggest songs. And I always say 99% of anything I do that's genius is accidental. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm not an intentional genius. I'm an accidental genius. So, hey, rude mood dude, Hamburg. Are you in Hamburg? How do you deal with lack of motivation? Well, stop smoking weed. If you're smoking weed, how do you deal with lack of motivation? You got to give yourself some reason. Find if you're trying to like get motivated to practice. get in a band, even if it's just a jam band, a rehearsal band. It'll scare you into practicing more. Maybe if there's an open mic night, get together with someone else and do something where you jam a song out in front of people. I think a lot of times getting out and playing live is, if you're just playing and jamming in your bedroom, yeah, it's motivation is going to be a problem. And yet I somehow motivated myself because I envisioned the career that I'm doing now, as doing, writing music and doing session work and things like that. That was what my goal was from the age of 15. And I played in a lot of bands. I think playing in bands is really helpful for getting you motivated. It's tough if you're not a good, if you're a rude and moody dude. You might not have. You're probably not going to have the best band experience because it's like funny. My friend Pee Wee, who's the bass player at my church, he's actually he just got back yesterday, but he was at Disney World this weekend playing with Ray Parker Jr. Basically, probably just playing like Ghostbusters over and over and over again. But Pee Wee had a shirt one time. I came over to his house to do a session, and his shirt said "Plays well with others." And it's funny because it's like, that's like an analysis that a child psychologist would make. Watching you play with plays well with others. Okay, and that's kind of how you have to be with in a band thing. If you're, for example, here in Los Angeles, the session guys, if there's a guitar player who gets called and he's like a real downer and he's like really negative and he could be the best player in the world, but if he's a bummer to be around, they're never going to call him again. It doesn't matter how good he is. It has nothing to do with anything. It's can you hang out? Can you be can you play well with others? Rude mood. Oh, right. Can you, if you can play well, if you can hang out and play well with others, you're probably going to, they're going to want you around. There's a lot of dynamics, a lot of egos in a band, so it's hard. But if it's just a rehearsal situation where you're not necessarily planning on doing gigs, then it's just a matter of having fun, but also maybe trying new things. Hey, let's do this. Let's add this song to the set list. It may be a song that's, oh, dang, that's hard. I gotta work this one. So you spend the whole week just working on that song, and then you get to the rehearsal and you're like, oh man, I suck. I played so bad. But it's like you did that work. All that work you put into learning a song is going to actually give you a huge boost. And the motivation comes from the fact that you don't want to make a fool of yourself. Almost all of my motivation comes from me not making a fool of myself, right? Embarrassing myself or whatever, That's so when you do a gig or when you play like an open mic thing or you're jamming with other musicians or other guitar players. I've done things where I've done sight reading things where me and a piano player would just practice our sight reading. And, that music up there and and he was a much better reader than me and he's setting the metronome at 80 beats per minute. And you go, oh, okay, that's too easy. And I'm like, are you kidding? I'm holding on by the skin of my teeth. And so he turns it up to 90 beats per minute. I'm like, oh, but it's in those moments of like barely hanging on is when you kind of break through and then you see another development. You see your playing ability kind of go up a little bit. So, it is hard. It's hard to stay motivated sometimes, especially if you're not getting a lot of opportunities to play live. I think it was probably, a lot of people took up guitar during COVID, but it was probably hard. It's like, well, what am I playing guitar for? Your motivation, you got to find your motivation, whatever that is. My motivation was, for many years, was to keep my kids in shoes and food, to feed my kids. So I would say yes to a lot of gigs that I was like, I don't really want to do this, but it pays pretty good. So I'd rather be doing X, but I'm doing Y because X no one's calling me to do, but Y I'm getting calls to do. So I'm going to do Y, and it pays the bills. Okay. And so, that's the motivation. I'm not sure where you are in your playing or where you are professionally. If you've got if you're 35 years old and you go, I would love to really transition to being a full-time guitar player. Like I said, I need to interview my friend about that, how he did that, because to me that's very impressive. I know he's impressed with me doing music full time and always being committed to it. But I was impressed with him where he was, because I think he was making like $75 an hour doing computer tech work for businesses and working probably 40 hours a week. He was making a lot of money, and this is like back in the 90s, and yet he still wanted to do the guitar thing. It's like, I want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And he stuck with it, and he kept taking gigs, and and because it was his company, he could take time off, and he had guys that could sub for him. So he might be losing, a couple $1,000s to go on the road for a week or something, or maybe losing $5,000 to go on the road for a week. But he made enough money where he had savings, he could do that. He also, but eventually he got to the point where he could do it full time, and he still does. And he does a lot of live stuff. He actually plays a lot more live work than I do, and he tours, which I don't do. Yeah, that's why I did X. Yeah, because I did Y. I had to say yes to Y until I could just do X, and that's kind of the same with my friend. I'm not saying his name because, well, I don't. There's no reason not to say his name is Dave, but if he's watching, I don't think he's ever watched my live stream, so I doubt he's out there. And I've said nothing but good stuff about him. You won't catch me ragging on anybody, I don't think. You won't catch me saying bad stuff about anybody for the most part. I mean, I really try not to do that, especially on the internet, because it can come back to haunt you. So, yeah, so Rude Mood Dude, what kind of stuff are you doing? Are you playing live? Do you have a band? Are you good enough to play in a band? What's your struggle with motivation? Like I said, if you're smoking weed, you might have trouble being motivated. A lot of great players smoked a lot of weed, so that didn't slow Hendrix down, I don't think. But I'm just saying, if there's an external force, if you're getting 2 hours of sleep a night, that also is a problem, and you might have a problem getting motivated if you don't have any energy, if you're tired all the time. If you're tired all the time, you might be anemic. You might need to take iron pills. That's what I do. I take iron every day just because I tend to be anemic and I need extra iron. So I think my dad struggled with that too. Also, I cold plunge, but not right now because the pool's like 80 degrees. But I think it's down to 77 degrees. I'll keep you posted. We try to cold plunge every night, or not cold plunge. Every night I'll swim laps, and the water feels cold when you first get in it, but after about a minute, you're like, oh, this is not cold water. Last winter when we were cold plunging, the pool got down. The coldest it ever got to that I measured it was 48 degrees, and your fingers and your hands go numb. I mean, it's like crazy, and that's not really cold plunging. Cold plunging is like 38 degrees or something. That's crazy. So, yeah, there is that Midwest DNA. I just had I had a meeting last week with a young kid from Copenhagen, and it's funny because I was saying Copenhagen because I thought I was being very sophisticated, and he kept saying Copenhagen, and I'm like, wait a minute. Are you saying the American pronunciation for me? And he goes, no, that's how we say it. I said, you say Copenhagen? I always thought it was Copenhagen, like Haagen-Dazs. And he goes, no. And then by the end of the day, he was saying Copenhagen. He's like, dang it, you got me saying it now. But I think Scandinavians, there's a lot of Scandinavians in the Midwest of America. So I think there's a certain of that amenable, friendly Scandinavian thing that is all over the Midwest, particularly in Minnesota. And so, yeah, that amenable thing where maybe if you're German from, we're to say Hamburg, Germans might have a different sensibility just naturally in their demeanor, and I'm trying to think of how many, do I know any, like, just Germans? I mean, my last name is German, Strahle. We say Strahle, Americanized. My middle name is Engel. My grandfather's parents on my mom's side were from Strasbourg, France, which is I think they speak German there. It looks like Germany, but it's France. It's right on the border, and it's gone back and forth between being part of Germany and being part of France and being part of. Currently, it's part of France. So I want to go there. Strasbourg's on a list. It's not a short list, I don't think, unless we do one of those riverboat things where we go down was that the Rhine? Strasbourg on the Rhine? I can't remember. If we do a Rhine River cruise, then we'll get to see Strasbourg. But I kind of almost wouldn't mind spending more time in Strasbourg, maybe even doing a little research and see if I can find out where my great-grandparents were from. But they immigrated to the U.S. So they were probably born there, but probably didn't like have a career there. So, let's see. All right, I'm going to sign out. I've got to get some work done today, and I hope you are doing well. I'll see you next Monday. We're going to continue on this. We still have we have one more pentatonic scale to go. We're going to get this. See if I can point to it here. This one up here, pentatonic number 5, right? And we're going to play it down here, so it'll be fairly easy. We won't be doing a lot of bending, though. I don't think. Lake Wobegon. Yeah, right. Lake Wobegon. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I've been to Minneapolis, but that's it. And around Minneapolis when I was doing a clinic there. But I've been to Wisconsin twice, Michigan a million times. So kind of very, very Scandinavian, very Dutch and Danish. It's so funny because this kid I was talking to, he was a young pop producer. I was telling him about Solvang in California, and I always thought Solvang was a Dutch village, but it's actually not. It's a Danish village. So it actually has a Danish history, and he'd never heard of it, of course. And he was like, I said, if you move, because he's planning on moving here, and I said, well, if you and your girlfriend get lonely, or homesick, you can go to Solvang. Actually, I like Solvang. I've been there a couple times. It's cute. It's cute. I mean, it's very kitschy, but it's it's a cute place to hang, and it's only a couple hours from our house, so it's cute. And there's a place called in Washington, Leavenworth in Washington is kind of the same thing. I think it's more like a Swiss village or something. So anyway, you're very welcome, Gary. Jenna, thanks for hanging out. Didn't see you. You've been lurking. Richard Abdul, good to see you. Neon, awesome to see you. Great stream. I hope so. Hey, Todd, good to see you too. Mahalo. Yes, I do plan on going to Hawaii at some point. We might go at Christmas. We'll see. I don't know. We're toying with some different things. So I will talk to you later, and God bless you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. And then I will, I'm trying to start the lesson sooner in the video, not talking for 20 minutes and then starting. So I think the lesson starts pretty early. And hopefully the ads only showed up about every 30 minutes. That's what I set it for. So you might have gotten an ad. And that's fine. That helps with the revenue a little bit, but I make a couple bucks from these videos, so it's not like I'm doing this for the money. Okay, just so you know. All right, God bless you all. Talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, Sawyer.